And welcome to Tips and Tricks. I'm Debbie Nelson with Together SC, and I'm delighted to be here today with my new friend, Eric Rowles, Leading to Change. Hey, Eric.
Hello, Debbie. Thanks for the time today.
Yeah, so glad to see you. As all of you know, Tips and Tricks is an opportunity for us to introduce you to the very wonderful members of our consultant collaborative. And Eric has been a long-standing member of Together SC, has spoken at our conferences, done a whole host of training. I think that's where your expertise is in training, Eric. Could you just tell us a little bit about Leading to Change, your business?
Absolutely so. Happy to. As a matter of fact, I can even introduce you to some of these kind of amazing people that we're with as well. So my name is Eric Rowles. I run this training agency called Leading to Change, and we work with nonprofit organizations really across the country. And so I get a chance to be able to work with some of these crazy people here. And you and I know that it's about the staff, the relationships, and the connections that we make with not only the people that work in our agencies and beyond. So this is the work that we love to be able to do, Debbie. We've been partnering for such a long time. We do about 500 in-person trainings a year, and we've now, of course, added in over the last 2 years, we did about 400 virtual presentations, and that's not an exaggeration. That's the real number that we're working with here.
Well, if you're doing 400 virtual trainings a year, something tells me you know how to make them dynamic. Something tells me that you're keeping people interested. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing that many. And what a great team. I'm looking at that picture and thinking, you guys do have a lot of fun together. So tell us about how we as nonprofit leaders can make our training and make our work that we're doing virtual dynamic. I mean, I think that's it's a challenge for all of us.
It is. And let's just put it this way here. So viewer, as you are watching this video here, you did not get into this job to be able to look through this camera. You got here to be able to make those relationships. And then, of course, if we have to make this transition to our work, we want to be able to have this remote experience, and we want to be able to make it so everyone is happy and they're engaged and they're watching you, and your content or your presentation is fantastic. And we know that the truth of that is after about 1.5 years of this experience, this is really kind of what so many of us are experiencing. That fatigue is real, that fatigue and that, oof. Debbie, you and I and every person that's watching this has probably lived through a really painful presentation. One of those where we just felt our soul kind of go away after listening to someone talk for over and over and on and on. And so what we thought we would do in this quick session is just share with you some things that you and I can do, friends, to be able to make that presentation come alive. And I'll share with you rule number 1 in this virtual world is connection first, content second. I know you've got that report. I know you've got that training. I know you've got that expertise. I know you have that content, but you start with your audience first. Connection first, content second. What does that mean? That means like either using kind of a chat box just to be able to kind of say, all right, so everyone, let's see kind of how we are feeling today. What's going on with you? How about a happy birthdays to whoever's there, who's going to the summit. It could also be utilizing things like those annotations, those whiteboards. What that does is that allows us to be able to kind of like hearts everywhere, to be able to kind of like scribble away. But the idea to be able to have some kind of interaction, because you and I know that if there's not movement on the screen, if it's just that talking head, it's not going to be able to work. And so in the same way that we can have this, which it could be like a polling question, something along those lines, it could be in a polling system. So whether it might be like, for example, poll everywhere, it might even be the polling in the Zoom application or your Microsoft Teams or whatever the application you're using, but something just to be able to ask what you're doing. Notice it's a connection first. How are you feeling today? What's going on with you? How was your weekend? I know we've got hard work to be able to do in this presentation. However, connection first, content second. And Debbie, the second thing that I'd want our attendees to be able to know is next rule up into this process. It's not a presentation any longer. If you forget everything I'm going to be able to share with you in these very few couple of minutes, this is probably the most important. You're not presenting for the presentation. you're presenting for the experience. This camera, this thing that you and I are trying to be able to kind of connect around here, it can't translate the same way. What I mean by that is, yet you have great content that you wanted to be able to share with everyone in person at that board meeting, at the donors retreat, at the staff program. But if I have to be virtual, I've got to give you a different kind of experience. And it might be that I want to be able to have something where I'm using, some kind of, musical intro or media intro. Maybe when they come on board, instead of silence, there's music that's playing in there, and I've got, something to be able to say, hey, welcome aboard. Maybe a little Hamilton mixtape that you have in place here, something here just to be able to kind of keep them alive. Because the idea is I want to be able to know that this is going to be a little bit different here. The other thing that you're trying to do is you're trying to prevent flat line pacing. What I mean by that is, well, you've all experienced it. After about 4, 5, 6, 9 minutes tops. After 9 minutes, we flatline. What I mean that is you go to sleep, or at least your mind goes to sleep. And so you're trying to prevent this flatline pacing. The way that we're trying to prevent this flatline pacing is by creating this idea of a roller coaster. You're trying to be able to create a roller coaster experience that kind of goes up and down here. And it might be something along those lines of, I start with 6 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes, a welcome, how are you? And then I go into my content, back up again. And so you're creating a 9-minute roller coaster experience. This doesn't take away the integrity of the work that you're doing or the content that you're sharing. But what it does is it gives you a different kind of an experience. It also gives your attendees an opportunity to be able to engage, relax, engage, relax. And that's what we're going for. It's an experience. And the third thing I want you to be able to think about is, what's going to be your visual stimulus? What's going to be that thing that you're going to be able to have, that thing for you to be able to kind of bring in? And that visual stimulus, it might be that visual, it might be that text, it might be that picture. If you'll notice, and Debbie, I'm just going to be able to kind of go to here. So here it is talking to me. And the reason why maybe our audience is still engaged with me is not because they haven't been seeing my talking head for the last 5 minutes. Because we've had some other kind of visual stimulus. It doesn't mean that you take away what you're doing. It means that you're giving your audience something else to be able to focus on in addition to your beautiful face, my beautiful head of hair today here. And so as we do this, I'm going to be able to share with you one last thing here, and this is your takeaways. I want you to be able to think about how you incorporate a takeaway into your presentation. What do I mean by that? I mean, the idea of having something that says, all right, so you just gave up an hour or 45 minutes or goodness, 3 hours, maybe a half a day watching a screen. How do you make sure when they walk away that they've got something that is useful, captures it? And it might be within the chat box. Hey, I'm going to be able to put something into the chat box here, and I want you to be able to kind of click onto this so that way you can kind of see what I have. It could have been a personal message, but instead of you putting it up on the screen or talking about it, you say, you know what I've done is I've sent a thank you message. I put it into the chat box. Go ahead and click onto it when we get done here, friends. Thank you for being with us. It could have been a question, something to be able to think of, maybe as kind of a final one to be able to go with. What's the one thing you take away today? What would you want to share with somebody? Or the last thing to be able to make your presentations dynamic is to be able to make sure they have a useful tool, something that they can use. And Debbie, as we come to a close here, the useful tool that I was thinking I might share with everybody is, well, sometimes you can actually have a different kind of even a visual. And so I can talk about a useful tool, or I can share with you a useful tool. And let me share with you what we're talking about here, friends. This is a tool, and this is a tool that is called And this tool itself is going to be one that's going to be able to, I'll share with you how this works in your brief second, because this is one of the ways that you could actually bring your slides come alive behind you. Notice that now you're engaging with me. I've got something here. Maybe it's my board retreat. Maybe it's the graphic I want to be able to share with you. But this tool, MMHMM, is a really great one, because what it also allows me to do is I can kind of resize me, and I can go a little bit smaller as well too. So you'll see that I'll kind of go over here. I can even, if I want to, I can even kind of blur myself away, so that way I can show you that this is really what I want you to be able to know. I come right back to you once again here. So this is called and it's one of my favorite tools that we get a chance to be able to use. What it also does is it gives you another different resource to be able to bring into the mix here. And so that's it. We want to be able to do this in just a quick conversation with you, a quick moment with you about how to be able to make these presentations engaging and dynamic, and also know that you want to give them that experience. And Debbie, with that, I'll turn it right back over to you, my friend. You get it.
Thank you, Eric. And what a dynamic presentation, I must add. I'm curious, this the MMH that you talked about,
Yes.
is that something that it's easy for our viewers to find?
It is indeed. And so, and it's a free tool that you can use, MMHMM. It's a weird sounding name here, but when you take a look at it, you can go check out and see how easy it is to be able to interact. And so I can put just about anything that I want into there. I can even kind of bring in pointers and kind of like talk about, hey, here's all the cool stuff that we want to be able to let you know. And so it's one of our favorite tools that we're using these days. And there's so many things like this here, friends. So don't be afraid to be able to give your audience an experience.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing I like is the visual, but also the thought process behind a roller coaster experience. I am not a roller coaster person. I avoid them at all costs. But when you're talking about doing a virtual meeting, a virtual gathering, I totally get what you're saying, that you really need to keep people, let them kind of get excited, but then let them relax. Have that pattern to it. I love that analogy.
Absolutely so. So this is kind of our favorite kind of resources we like to be able to use. And what we'll do is I'll stop this share and I'll turn it back over to you for you to be able to kind of take it from there.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for your time today and sharing these tips and giving us some great takeaways. I think we could have all used this about 2 years ago, but we need to re-energize and keep going forth with these now, what seems to be the more common practice of doing a lot of virtual. Next time I will have you talk about how do you do it from the car, because that seems like another place that we're seeing so many people, myself included, meeting with people over the phone from afar. So thank you, Eric. You provided your contact information on the slides. We will also give that information out to our viewers. We hope to see you again very soon for another wonderful presentation. And thank you for being a member of our consultant collaborative. So great to have you.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. And I'll tell you what we'll do as we kind of end out here, always end with, a little bit of music. So we'll end with your outro as well. You've got this.